My guest today is hands down the authority on the region's premier professional sports event. Craig DeVrieze has covered the John Deere Classic since 1984 for two Quad City newspapers, Golf World Magazine, and currently PGAtour.com. He authored Magic Happened, celebrating 50 years of the John Deere Classic, published in 2021. And with the 53rd John Deere Classic set to tee off in a little less than 2 weeks from our recording today, I thought it'd be a great time to catch up with my friend and talk a little golf. So, Craig, thanks for joining me on Galesburg in Focus.
Happy to do it, Jay.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Once you feel like it's coming, the summer's getting ready to get started. And then as soon as the US Open's over, it's boom.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 weeks away. It's
right on top of you. I guess if nothing else, the weather kind of signals that it's time for it, right?
No question about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think probably the first time we met, you had covered maybe one John Deere Classic. I started at the Register Mail as a sports writer in '85, and I think you'd started maybe the year before at the Dispatch in '84.
Accurate, yeah.
Yeah, so then we kind of, over the next couple decades, we shared a few press boxes and press rows together, covering Western Big Six, with Galesburg with me, and you a variety of Quad City teams. So we kind of go back a ways.
It's always pleasant to catch up.
Yeah. So let's talk a little golf. You've called the John Deere Classic a major league event in a minor league community. Tell me what you mean by that.
It's our big league event. I mean, it's there's no question that this is, although it's not exactly a one of the designated events. It's not the equal of a Hartford right today and this week. I mean, and the U.S. Open obviously and events of that size. But it's an event that has grown in stature across the years. It's always been kind of going through the history back to the Oakwood days and back to 1984 when they actually my first story about the tournament was about the fund drive they were having to try to keep the thing alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that became a theme down through the next several years until John Deere obviously came aboard and really took it to the next level. But it's the big leagues in a small community like the Quad Cities, and sometimes we tend to say, oh man, they don't have Tiger Woods this year, they don't have Scotty Scheffler coming, they don't have the cream of the cream. But actually this year we have a pretty good sampling of cream, and it's and that happens every year. We get a look at the guys that are just beginning, and we get to see them at the start, and then kind of watch them as they grow through their careers and hope they come back. And primary example is happening this year with Jordan Spieth, two-time winner as a very young player, and after 9 years being away, he's coming back and playing in the July 4th event.
Yeah. So where does the John Deere Classic in the Quad Cities rank, like population size, as far as is that one of the smaller events on the tour?
Unquestionably, it's one of the smaller. It's interesting because some of the outskirts of big cities host events, and you don't quite know how to compare that. But Augusta, for instance, is smaller than the Quad Cities. But but this is this is one of the smallest metropolitan statistical areas that the tour historically has come to and annually comes back to, and it's one of the it went to events to places like Robinson, Illinois. If you've ever been through Robinson, that's a spot in a spot on the road. And but it used to go to smaller towns regularly when it was kind of a barnstorming professional sport trying to find its legs. But the Quad Cities remains probably in that real small group that of 2 to 3 to 4 tournaments that have that small town feel that some of these, not so many of the new the guys that are still on tour now, but the Zach Johnsons, certainly the Steve Strickers and the Kenny Perrys and the guys that came aboard when old timers like you and me did. They remember those events and they remember them fondly, and particularly this event. So,
do you think the people in the Quad Cities region truly appreciate what they have? I mean, both in terms of the prestige of having a PGA event, but what it has, like an estimated economic income of like 70 million in the Quad Cities. Do you think people realize that?
I think people tend to poo-poo what's in their backyard. It's just a natural tendency. But I think more and more, I think people really come to appreciate this tournament for what it is, and certainly, John Deere's involvement. They've taken it. It looks like a big league event. It looks like anything like the Hartford Open. It looks like the Western Opens used to look in Chicago. It's got that major league look and feel, and and the branding is spot on. And I think people slowly, grudgingly, um, with nurturing, now that the cynical sports writers are out of the business, and we've come around to appreciate what it's always been. Guys like me, actually, that's who I'm talking about. I think more and more, I think the community is really starting to buy in. You look at Birdies for Charity and what that's done through the years. It used to be all, you say you're the largest per capita donor, largest charitable donor per capita on the PGA Tour. People used to go, yeah, what does that mean? Is that just a slogan? But it's that, as those dollars grow, and they're now beyond $150 million raised for charity in the Quad Cities. I think that message really gets through, and numbers like that tend to kind of slap people upside the head. And I think
Yeah.
the economic impact people appreciate. They know that this is good for the community. So I think that message has kind of been received. Yeah.
Okay. How did you get started covering the John Deere Classic? Was it something that you really wanted to do, or was it an assignment that you got and said, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do this or not"?
I played golf, and I had an interest in covering. I actually in 1984, there was the announcement of the fundraising that they were doing to keep the tournament alive for the following year, when to supplement the a meager sponsor's purse of $60,000 from Miller Lite. And I just kind of waded in, and it became my beat, and ultimately, with every experience, it became a passion. Scott Hoke won the first event. And the more I was around the tournament and around the guys that were winning it, and got a sense for what the PGA Tour was, I was always I quickly became a fan. I don't know that if I was, my first fond memory of golf, or really picking up on a passion for it, was I was in college, and Jack Nicklaus came down the stretch against Tom Weiskopf and Johnny Miller at Augusta, and I was paying pretty close attention. I said, this is pretty cool shit.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
So as far as you just mentioned that you did play the game. How does that impact? Does that give you a better, feel for covering it since you play it?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I understand terminology. I understand the challenge, certainly, because, well, it's a whole different. I'm so bad you can't even imagine, Jay. It's just driving me nuts these days. But I've never. Yeah, I think having a club in your hand, and trying to get your way around a golf course that these guys play so easily, it certainly raises your level of appreciation for what it does. But I have a passion for the Chicago Bears, and I can't carry a football. I can't bounce a basketball, so it's not necessary, but
But it helps to have the knowledge, you
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
know.
yeah. Golf is a quirky game, and knowing some of the nuances of the game, it makes a difference.
Okay. And LinkedIn classifies you as a golf historian.
Well, that's because I typed that.
Okay, you put that in
But
there yourself. Huh?
it's that has definitely become a passion. The opportunity to write the 50-year history, Magic Happened, the 50-year history book, to write that book for the tournament and for John Deere, and to discover the beauty of newspapers.com, and how you can go back a century and find information, just a plethora of information, from the old news files, with a couple of keyword searches is amazing. When I signed on to write that book, I thought I was going to spend months in a library going through key card. You're going through the old card system,
Yeah.
and then I discovered newspaper.com, and that was like a an aha moment. And so I've subsequently written the 100-year history of Short Hills Country Club in my hometown, East Moline. And just this year, I completed the 100-year history of Davenport Country Club. And so, yeah, I fancy myself just a bit of a amateur golf historian, and I really, really enjoyed digging back through the 20s.
Okay. This is Jay Redfern. I'm talking to Craig DeVrieze, a longtime Quad City sports journalist, golf historian, who's covered the John Deere Classics for nearly 40 years. So before we get into some of the names and some of the highlights, talk about how the tournament has endured. You've said it's had 5 near-death experiences. Kind of tell me about that.
Well, the first was actually the first was in 1975, and I remember it because I was in high school at the time and I was paying a little attention. It was dead. They had a press release. They wrote a press release that said there will be no John Deere, no Quad City Open in July, and that was written, and it was actually handed out. And 4 gentlemen, Whitey Barnard, who was pivotal in starting the tournament, Art Swift, who was a volunteer board member in the early going, and 2 JCs, Cliff Montgomery and Dick Farrell, were upstairs, apparently having a reasonably loud discussion about whether that press release should have been passed out. And at that point, the Dick and Cliff convinced the 2 gentlemen who had a little bit of money invested in the tournament and felt like they were at risk if they were to go forward with what would have been a 5th tournament in 1975. They convinced them to let the JCs try to find a way to salvage the thing, and they did. They moved it to Oakwood. They sold a number of tickets. It was a real dusty affair. One of the stories is one of the Moline JC's members ran a vending company, catering company, and so he did the food and beverage. His cousin worked for a security firm, so he was in charge of security. And at night, he's driving around the golf course, the cousin, and drove into a pond with his dog in the cart. Luckily, the dog could swim. I don't know if the security guy could.
Yeah.
But anyway, everybody survived, and so did the tournament. And then 84, when I came aboard, they were doing a fundraiser. They absolutely had to find a way to retire some debt from the previous year, and then the following year, the board announced that if they couldn't field a purse of $200,000, which is crazy when you think about the $5 million that they're offering, or $6 million they're offering this year, they wouldn't have a tournament. And somehow, some way, it all got cobbled together. It's a fascinating story. And so the tournament was saved again. And then there was then Hardee's came aboard, and that became a very pivotal bridge to what would become the John Deere Classic. But they were there for 9 years. And then when Hardee stepped aside, the PGA Tour stepped up and said, "Hey, play opposite the President's Cup," which they were just starting, and the Ryder Cup in the fall, and we'll supplement your purse, and we'll keep you going. So they did that for about 3 years. One of which was when a kid named Tiger Woods was just getting started, turned pro, came here in his 3rd professional start, took the lead on Friday, looked like he was going to finish the deal, took it into Sunday, and the famous lead from Ron Sirek of AP was Quad City and Quad City. He drove it someplace nobody ever has or ever will at Oakwood, and took an 8, a quadruple bogey, and so and lost to Ed Fiore famously. But at that same point was when John Deere was talking about, hey, let's step up our sponsorship, and there were discussions that were pretty amazing, the way it all came together, with the PGA Tour building TPC Deere Run where it is now, John Deere becoming the official equipment supplier, and this will be the 25th year for John Deere as tournament sponsor, which is the 2nd longest running sponsorship relationship on tour, which is is an amazing story in its own right.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
it's
So
a
I know,
hell of a book.
okay, where
And
can we get that?
I don't know. I think they may just have a few copies left that possibly will be for sale this year. I'm not sure at the
Okay.
tournament.
Okay. So I know the field isn't set yet, but kind of give us an early preview of the 2024 John Deere Classic. You know, big news this week with Jordan Spieth committing to return. You know, what's the field look like this year?
It's probably the best it's ever been.
Really?
And there were some years in the old Hardy's Golf Classic years when Payne Stewart and Greg Norman and Paul Azinger came. Those were some pretty solid fields, and they were deep fields too, because guys, they came in the fall because they needed the money.
Yeah.
It was different. It was different then, and you know
Yeah.
how the tour has really changed, and particularly has changed over the past couple of years with the emergence of Live,
Mm.
which is a story that's ongoing, could change tomorrow. But they created in creating these the elevated events, the designated events that have really crowded the schedule, the $20 million tournaments. Um, uh, they created an incentive for guys to really play in other events in order to play their way into those $20 million fields, to make it into the FedEx Cup playoffs, which has been they've lessened the size of those the year-end fields, and the rewards for making the FedEx Cup playoffs are are considerably more long-lasting. You get into if you make the top 70, you will make you make the playoffs for the not the playoffs, but the designated the $20 million events. Every designated event next year you'll play in. So these guys have a lot of reasons to come here now. And 3 years ago they probably had 7 of the top 100. This year they've got 5 of the top 25, 6 of the top 25, excuse me. And that's not counting Jordan Spieth. They got Patrick Cantley, number 10 player in the FedEx Cup standings this year, world renowned player, Ryder Cup player. They've got defending champion Sepp Straka is number 14 in the FedEx Cup standings, and they've got Jason Day, who rounds out the top 25. Jordan Spieth at 52 is obviously a name we've all been eager to welcome back.
Yeah.
There's never been a greater, the absolute height of my experience with the tournament and just covering sports was in 2015 when he came here. Many people said he shouldn't have. He had won the Masters. He'd won the U.S. Open. The British Open was the following week, and only one man in the history of the game had won all 3 of those major championships in the same year, and that was Ben Hogan, fellow Texan Ben Hogan. And Jordan Spieth came here, even though a lot of people said, "Hey, you should be going over to the British Open to get ready a week early," but he had a commitment to play here, and he played here, and I always thought that was commendable. Didn't come back the following year to defend because of a conflict with the Olympics, and it hasn't been back since because of schedules are complicated and really compact, particularly in the summer portion. But he's coming here this year, and
What
it's
kind of impact does he have?
great to
Just
have him back.
singly him. What kind of impact does he have on the tournament when he appears?
He's won 13 tournaments,
Will he be?
3 major
Will he
champions.
bring people out just to watch him?
Oh, I think 100% he will. He is. I really think when you talk about star appeal, he's probably one of uh, I'd say 5 guys who absolutely move the needle for the PGA Tour in the game of golf. Jordan has that Q rating. He has that excitability factor. He's got a great personality. The way he wins is often pretty amazing. He got his first win as a teenager here in 2013 by holing it on the 72nd hole and then winning in a playoff versus Zach Johnson and David Hearn, and he's gone on to just be a really exciting player, a really interesting player, a lot of fun to watch him interact with caddy Michael Greller. And no, Jordan is when I wrote the history of the John Deere Classic, there were only I had kept one book in reserve, and I wanted three guys to sign it. The Holy Trinity of the John Deere Classic, I call them. Zach Johnson, Steve Stricker, and Jordan Spieth was the was a third. And so yeah, it's really it's a big deal to have Jordan back. But he really, in the sense that what they have coming this year, he supplements the field as much as anything else, because it's they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They've got probably 40 of the top 100. When, remember, I said 3 years ago it was 7.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how being a small fish can really has really kind of has really kind of become an advantage at this point, where guys want to play their way into those big money fields. So
Kind
it's
of
great.
talk about how I think you've
really good
mentioned
field.
before about how the John Deere Classic's kind of a launching pad for careers. Who are some of the players that would kind of fit that mold?
Well, Jordan Spieth would be Exhibit A.
Mhm.
Payne Stewart would be Exhibit A1 or A2. Really, there've been 24 now first-time winners, which is an amazing thing to think in 53 years.
Was DeChambeau, was he a first time?
DeChambeau, absolutely, that was his first win. 2 years after Spieth won in 2015. It's Brian Harman got his first win here, and he went on last year to dominate the British Open.
Mhm.
So it's been a launching pad for a lot of really, really great players. And when Bryson DeChambeau won the U.S. Open last week, he became one of I'm forgetting the number, but it's 8, I think, guys who have 6 guys who have won multiple major championships in addition to the John Deere Classic, and one of 8 guys who have won a major championship after winning at the John Deere. So it really has elevated careers. In some cases, it's re-elevated careers. Steve Stricker had his career renaissance in his 40s
Mhm.
by winning 3 straight John Deere Classics, and he just kept coming back, and he's one of the faces of the tournament now.
Yeah,
He was on
for
the cover
sure.
of the book, and
Yeah.
Zach got his start here playing in as a sponsors exempt player, and as I told the story of sponsors exemptions, guys like Spieth, guys like Justin Thomas, guys like John Rahm have all been through here. Guys like Jason, who's back this year as the number 25 player and kind of coming out of a career lull. They got their start. Jason Day made his career debut at the age of 17 at the John Deere Classic. He's gone on to win a couple of majors and become a pretty prominent player in the game. So, yeah, it definitely has launched careers. It's saved careers, and it's been a terrific event for 53 years now. So,
Yeah. This is Jay Redfern. I'm talking to Craig DeVrieze, longtime Quad City sports journalist. So from Wednesday's Pro-Am through Sunday's final round, what's your favorite day of the tournament?
Saturday's moving day, and that's
Mhm.
always really exciting. I think that's when you start to identify what the lasting stories are going to be, who the guys who are going to be have a chance to win on Sunday are going to be, and so Saturday is kind of Sunday is that day where it all ends, and it's just a frantic finish, and it's kind of a melancholy day. It's always been a melancholy day for me because it means a long week is over, and yet I wish there were a couple more days. So, but Saturday is really going to be my favorite day this year because Counting Crows are playing at the end of the round.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll be sneaking out a little bit early and
No,
heading
what
over.
I'll be doing is I'll be sitting outside in my cigar smoking lounge
Okay.
that I set up outside the press room every year, and I'll be writing my Saturday story, which you can't help but have to wait until the round is over in order to set the scene for Sunday.
Yeah.
While I'm listening to Adam Duritz and the Counting Crows.
Okay. So what are some tips that you would give to fans attending the John Deere Classic? I mean, do you stay on one hole? Do you follow your favorite golfer, follow the leaders? I mean, what do you think the best way for fans to follow the tournament?
Well, I always kick myself at the end of every year when a guy like Ludwig Ober was here and I didn't follow him playing golf. Yeah, on a Friday, Thursday and Friday, identify that guy that you think, okay, this is a guy that's going to do great things, and I want to see what he's got. Go out there and follow him around for 9 holes. On the weekend, find a place, 16, 17, 18, find a place where you can kind of follow the action while also, enjoying yourself and letting the action actually come to you. So I guess that's my advice, but yeah, get out there and enjoy it, man. You're in the biggest amphitheater you'll ever be in sports. You don't have to, it's not like, okay, I'm sitting in section C, seat 5, row 10,
Right.
and that's where you're going to watch the event unfold from. You get to go out there and pick your spots. You get to pick who you want to watch. It's a big playing field, and you're out in the open, and you're out in the air, fresh air, and man, enjoy it. Take a cigar. That'd be my recommendation, but
okay.
I don't know that my wife would applaud that. But
okay, you kind of talked about this earlier about the timing, but will the dates of the John Deere Classic ever get moved, or is it pretty? Do you think it's pretty set now? And how much of an
everything's
impact
in flux, Jay.
Yeah.
There's so much that is changing daily. If they make a deal with Live, and they start to bring some of that team events into the tour schedule, nothing's known at this point. What is known is the John Deere Classic. This is the second of a 4-year extension, and so we can safely assume that we'll be back in the summer for the next 2 years. What comes behind that is it's really hard to predict. And as much as John Deere would love to be back, maybe there's just too much money involved, and the PGA Tour has other options, and we'll see. We don't know, but we'll find out as as they work through these negotiations that have been ongoing with the Saudi the PIF fund that funds the Live Tour. They have all that. They have all that money, and they want to put it into the tour and kind of create some kind of a combined effort, as opposed to the war that's ongoing right now. That's why we wouldn't think about having Bryson DeChambeau back. He's on the Live Tour now, so
Yeah.
But he could be back next year. So much is unknown. It's pretty fascinating to watch this go on, but it's a little nerve-wracking if you're a fan of the John Deere Classic, because it's one of those events that just can't say, yeah, we're going to make it through.
Yeah. So enjoy it while you can, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's finish with a rapid fire round, or a semi-rapid fire. I'm going to say something, you give me your first thought. So who's on your John Deere Classic Mount Rushmore?
Well, it's man, that's a big one. You can't leave D.A. Weibring off. He was the first 3-time winner.
Yeah.
Designed TPC Deere Run. I would put Payne Stewart on there. I would put Dean Beeman, who won the first 2 events and was instrumental in keeping the John Deere Classic alive when the Quad City Open alive when it probably shouldn't have. After he became commissioner of the tour, and he built it into a big league tour, probably too big for the small towns that like the Quad Cities. But the old commish, the first 2-time winner of the John Deere Classic, had a soft spot in his heart for this event, so he helped keep it alive. And then there's the big 3. There's Stricker, there's Zach, who's been the best sponsor exemption ever given in John Deere Classic history, and possibly in PGA Tour history, because he's become the face of the tournament, the ambassador of the tournament, particularly on the tour, with 2 major championships and his hometown Iowan status. And then there's my man Jordan.
Okay. How about your Mount Rushmore of greatest golfers of all time? Who's your four? If you had to pick four?
It's not hard. It's
Okay.
Jack, it's Tiger, but it, what that order is, that's hard to
Yeah.
say. I would then include probably, and if you ask me in 5 minutes, I might change my mind, but Ben Hogan, and it's hard to Bobby Jones.
Okay.
Those are the probably if that's a Mount Rushmore, that's a pretty good
Yeah.
Mount Rushmore.
Okay. How about what's your favorite hole at Deer Run?
My favorite hole at Deer Run is probably 14's fun. It's a drivable par four. 18 has just an incredible history of dramatic finishes and playoff finishes and things like that. Yeah,
Okay.
those would be the two.
Okay. What's the best thing about covering golf?
Pork chop sandwiches.
Okay. What's the worst thing about covering golf?
Long days.
Long
Very,
days.
very long days. Yeah. And it
Okay.
all happens at the end. And so, it's 5 stories in 2 hours, that kind of
Okay.
thing.
How about favorite golf announcer?
Favorite golf announcer. It'd be Johnny Miller because he was really good at what he did. He was honest and he's great an analyst. I like Brandel Chambly. I think he does when he really gets into the golf and breaks it down. He's pretty brilliant that way. And then Andrew Catalan said my name on CBS, so
Okay.
there's a soft spot in my heart for Andrew. He'll be the lead announcer at the John Deere this year.
Who's been
David Faraday, excuse me.
Okay, yeah.
David Faraday. I got to know David a little bit because he was a big supporter of Wounded Warriors, of which my stepson was one, and David's both hilarious and generous of heart, and so I'm glad I didn't forget to mention David.
Okay, so we've had a lot of famous celebrities play there, athletes, Caitlin Clark, Michael Jordan. Who's been the biggest non-tour golfer that's appeared at the John Deere Classic? Who's had the biggest following, do you think?
Well, Bob Hope.
Oh yeah,
very early on. He came to the first or the second Ed McMahon Quad Cities Open, and the numbers they cited were 50,000. So I don't think Bob's been surpassed, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, there've been some great ones, you cited them. It's amazing the impact that Caitlin Clark had last year and has continued to have. She's one of those phenoms in the Jordan Tiger pantheon. So, and she really generated a lot of excitement. Bill Murray was a lot of fun to have here. He's hilarious. I'll never forget. They said, "Why are you here, Bill?" And he said, "The money," and he meant it.
Yeah. How about what's your go-to snack or lunch or drink at the John Deere Classic?
It would be a Romeo y Julieta Capulet Churchill cigar, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about what's the single most exciting John Deere Classic moment that you have witnessed?
This 2015 when Spieth actually, man, my favorite memory was on Saturday. He holed it with one hand off the club on 17 for eagle, and then was coming down 18, and he realized at that point, he said to Michael Greller, and this is a guy who just won the first 2 majors of the year, but he turned back into the kid who just loved golf. He said, "I got a chance for my lowest round on the PGA Tour, a 61." And he got it. He made a birdie on 18, and he was just giddy in the aftermath. It was like you're watching this guy who's the biggest name in golf at that moment because of his success at the Masters and the U.S. Open and what was coming at the British Open, where he finished one shot out of a playoff. And I'll challenge you, Jay, who won that British Open at St. Andrews that Jordan Spieth finished one shot out of a playoff.
Not
It was
sure.
Zach Johnson
Zach Johnson. Okay. Yep.
off the plane,
Yeah.
off the John Deere Classic charter, and Jordan flew back with Zach, and drank from the claret jug. So, yeah, that Saturday, I'll never forget just how excited. This at that point he was a 22-year-old man, but he was the biggest name in the game.
Yeah.
With so much ahead of him, so much history to accomplish. That didn't specifically include the John Deere Classic, but he said, "I came here to win," and he won. And so that there'll never be a moment to top that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
I've asked this question to several people, and it's kind of been a tough one. I'm going to see if you can do it. So, other than family, you get to invite 4 people to dinner, living or dead. Who are you bringing to the table?
Wow. Bruce Springsteen. These are tough questions. Some people might have ready answers. I don't.
No, they don't. So yeah,
Bruce is my musical hero. I guess I would bring Nate Bargatze. I would love to sit down with Nate Bargatze. He cracks me up. The comedian. He's a hell of a golfer too, by the way. He should be at the John Deere Classic. Should try to get him for a pro-am.
I figured, especially coming off the Celtics, you'd pick somebody like Bill Russell or somebody like that.
Bill is amazing human being. Bill Walton would be fun to have dinner with. How would you get a word in edgewise?
Yeah.
And then probably Scarlett Johansson, just for obvious reasons.
Okay. Okay. And that we'll wrap it up on that one. That's longtime Quad City sports journalist Craig DeVrieze, who in just a few days will be covering the John Deere Classic for PGAtour.com. Craig, always admired your work, and I look forward to your stories coming up in the next couple of weeks. And thank you for joining me on Galesburg in Focus.
It's always great to catch up with a member of the Big Six sports writing fraternity. We're losing too many too quickly. Yeah. So I want to shout out to Stevie Tappa, who won't be at the tournament this year because he passed away this week. And
right. So sad news there. So
it's always good to catch up with guys like you and Don O'Brien and Galesburg native Don O'Brien. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Craig. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Mm-hmm.